Be me, name is Victor. 39 years old, standing in the parking lot of a building I'd worked in for 11 years. Holding a cardboard box with my desk stuff. A cactus, some pens, a photo of my dog. Security guard who escorted me out looks embarrassed. Says, "Sorry man, I know this is wrong." I just nod. Don't really know what to say. Never have known what to say. That's kind of the whole problem apparently. I was just fired for being emotionless. Not for poor performance. Not for misconduct. Not for anything I did wrong. For who I am. For how my face looks when I'm thinking. For not sharing my feelings in team meetings. For being quiet. 11 years of excellent work. Ended because I don't emote the right way. I should be angry, but I just feel numb. Which I guess proves their point. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. I've always been quiet. Even as a kid, I was the one observing, not talking. My mom used to worry something was wrong. Took me to doctors who said I was fine. Just introverted. Just processing things internally instead of externally. Nothing broken, just wired differently. School was hard socially, but easy academically. I liked numbers, patterns, systems. Things that made sense. Things that didn't require small talk. College, I studied statistics and computer science. Found my people among other quiet analytical types. We'd work on problems for hours without speaking. Then someone would say I figured it out. And that was enough. No need for team-building exercises or emotional check-ins. Just work, results, mutual respect. Got hired at Morrison Financial right out of college. Started as a junior analyst crunching numbers. Found I was good at it. Really good. Could see patterns others missed. Could build models that actually predicted outcomes. Got promoted steadily over the years. Junior analyst to senior analyst. Each promotion based on results. Not on how many people I chatted with in the break room. By year 11, I was the backbone of the data team. Everyone knew it even if I didn't advertise it. When something broke, they called Victor. When a model didn't make sense, ask Victor. When the executives needed numbers for a big decision, Victor's team delivered. I wasn't flashy about it. Just did my job and went home. Didn't go to happy hours much. Didn't share personal stories in meetings. Didn't laugh loudly at jokes or get visibly excited. That's just not who I am. My team understood. We'd worked together for years. They knew I cared about them even if I didn't say it constantly. Knew I'd stay late to help them meet deadlines. Knew I'd go to bat for them with management. Actions over words, that was my style. It worked for 11 years. Then Brenda Walsh arrived. New head of human resources, 44 years old. Came from a tech company in Portland. Big ideas about transforming workplace culture. First email she sent talked about emotional intelligence. Creating a workplace where people felt seen and heard. Where vulnerability was celebrated. Where authentic expression was encouraged. I read it and thought, okay, that's nice. Didn't really affect my work. I'd keep doing what I did. First month, Brenda implemented new initiatives. Mandatory emotional check-ins at the start of meetings. Everyone had to share how they were feeling. Use emotion words to describe their current state. I dreaded these. When it came to my turn, I'd say fine or focused. Brenda would push for more. Can you elaborate, Victor? What does focus feel like? I'd say it feels like being ready to work. She'd nod but look unsatisfied. Like I was failing a test I didn't know I was taking. Second month, she introduced vulnerability sessions. Once a week the team would gather. Share personal challenges and emotions. Support each other through active listening. I sat through these silently. Didn't have anything I wanted to share. My life was fine, work was fine, everything was fine. When asked to contribute, I'd say I'm good. Thanks. Brenda started noting this. Said I wasn't participating in team bonding. I said I participated in work. Wasn't that enough? She said work wasn't just about output. It was about human connection. I didn't know how to respond to that. Third month, I got called into HR. Brenda sat across from me with a file. said she'd received concerns about my demeanor. I asked what kind of concerns. She said colleagues found me cold and unapproachable. Said my lack of emotional expression made people uncomfortable. I asked who specifically was uncomfortable. She said that was confidential. I asked what I'd done wrong. She said it wasn't about actions, it was about presence. I wasn't creating a welcoming, emotional environment. I sat there confused. My performance reviews were excellent. My team delivered consistently. Nobody had ever complained to me directly. Now I was being told my face was a problem. Brenda said I needed to work on emotional accessibility. Smile more, share more, express more. Attend optional social events. Participate actively in vulnerability sessions. She'd check in monthly to assess my progress. I left feeling like I'd been diagnosed with a disease. The disease of being myself. I tried. I really did. Force myself to smile more in meetings. Felt fake and uncomfortable. Tried to share in vulnerability sessions. Said things like, I'm feeling a bit tired today. Brenda said that wasn't vulnerable enough. Needed to go deeper. Share fears, struggles, emotional challenges. I didn't have any I wanted to share with coworkers. Kept my personal life personal. Was that wrong now? 4th month, another HR meeting. Brenda said my progress was insufficient. My emotional intelligence scores weren't improving. I asked what scores. She showed me a rubric. Categories like emotional expressiveness and interpersonal warmth. Rated by anonymous colleague surveys. I scored low on all of them. I pointed out my performance metrics were the highest on the team. She said performance wasn't just about numbers. It was about how you made people feel. I asked if I'd been rude or mean to anyone. She said no, not explicitly. But my neutrality was a form of coldness. My silence was a form of exclusion. I didn't know how to fix being neutral and silent. That was just me. 5th month, I got written up. Formal warning for failure to meet emotional engagement standards. I read the document in disbelief. Victor demonstrates consistent emotional unavailability. His reserved demeanor creates barriers to team cohesion. Despite coaching, he has not shown adequate improvement. I signed it because I had no choice. Went back to my desk and kept working. What else could I do? Change my entire personality. Become someone I'm not. I tried and it felt wrong. Like wearing a costume that didn't fit. My team noticed something was wrong. My colleague Sandra asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. She said, Victor, I know you, something's going on. I showed her the written warning. She read it and her eyes went wide. This is ridiculous. You're the best analyst we have. I shrugged. Apparently that's not enough anymore. Word spread through the department. People were confused and angry on my behalf. Marcus, another senior analyst, came to my desk. Said this is discrimination, you know that, right? They're punishing you for being introverted. I said, I don't know what it is. I just know I can't change who I am. He said, you shouldn't have to. 6th month, the end came. Called into HR again, Brenda plus the department head. Brenda did most of the talking. Said despite extensive support and coaching, I had failed to meet the company's emotional culture standards. My continued presence was negatively impacting team dynamics. They were terminating my employment. Effective immediately. I sat there processing. 11 years. Excellent performance reviews every single year. Multiple promotions based on merit. Never complained about my actual work. Fired because I didn't smile enough. Because I didn't share my feelings. Because I was quiet. I asked if this was legal. Brenda said employment was at will. They could terminate for any reason. I asked for the real reason in writing. She hesitated, then wrote, termination due to failure to meet cultural and emotional engagement expectations. Despite performance support and coaching, I took the paper. Evidence of my own absurdity. Security escorted me to pack my desk. Colleagues watched in shock. Sandra had tears in her eyes. Marcus looked furious. I kept my face neutral because that's all I know how to do. Packed my box in 10 minutes. 11 years in one cardboard box. Walked out without saying goodbye. Didn't trust my voice. Even emotionless robots have breaking points. That night I sat in my apartment. Stared at the wall for hours. My dog sat next to me. Only creature who never needed me to express anything. I thought about what I'd do next. 40 years old, highly skilled, terrible at emotions. Would every workplace be like this now? Would I have to perform feelings to keep a job? I didn't sleep much that night. Next morning my phone started buzzing. Texts from former colleagues. Sandra. Victor, what they did is wrong. We're not okay with this. Marcus. Emergency team meeting this morning. You should know what's happening. Another colleague, Jennifer. Check your email. I opened my email. Found a message from Marcus sent to the entire data department. Subject line. Victor's termination. We need to talk. The email laid out what had happened to me. The emotional engagement requirements. The written warnings for being too quiet. The termination for not smiling enough. It asked if this was the kind of workplace people wanted, where personality was policed, where introversion was punished, where 11 years of excellence meant nothing. Marcus called for a meeting to discuss response. I sat there reading replies flooding in. This is insane. Victor trained me. He's the reason I'm good at my job. I'm introverted too. Am I next? This isn't about emotions, it's about control. Then the text started coming faster. Sandra. Half the team is refusing to work until this is addressed. Marcus. Meeting with management in an hour. We're demanding answers. Jennifer. People are talking about walking out. I couldn't believe it. These people were risking their jobs. For me. The guy who never went to happy hours. The guy who didn't share feelings. The guy who just quietly did his work. They were standing up for that guy. Mid-morning I got a call from Marcus. He was breathless with adrenaline. Victor, you need to hear this. Management tried to justify the firing. Said it was a cultural fit issue. Sandra stood up and said Victor is the culture. He's the one who helps everyone. Who stays late to fix problems. Who trained half this department. Then Jennifer said if being quiet is a fireable offense. Then fire me too because I'm quiet. Then Thomas, another introvert, said same here. One by one people spoke up. Said they wouldn't work in an environment where personality was a termination criteria. Management tried to calm things down. Said they'd review the decision. Marcus said reviewing wasn't enough. They wanted Victor reinstated. And Brenda's policies rescinded. Or they'd walk. Asked how many people were serious. Marcus said at the meeting count 14 out of 18 in the department, including 3 women and 2 people of color. This wasn't a white male grievance. This was the whole team saying no. Management asked for 24 hours to respond. The team gave them until end of business. The rest of that day was chaos apparently. Brenda tried to hold an emergency session. Explain that emotional intelligence was important. Sandra interrupted her. Said emotional intelligence means reading the room. The room says you fired a good man for being himself. Read that. Brenda got flustered. Said she was trying to create a supportive environment. Marcus said there's nothing supportive about destroying someone's career. Because they're not bubbly enough. Brenda retreated to her office. The team went back to their desks. But nobody worked. They sat in solidarity. Emails went unanswered. Reports went unfinished. The department ground to a halt. End of business came. Management asked for another day. Team said no. Either announce Victor's reinstatement, or we're walking out tomorrow morning. That night I got a call from the CEO's office. First time in 11 years the CEO knew my name. He asked to meet with me the next morning. Before any decisions were made. I agreed. What choice did I have? Next morning I put on my only suit. Drove to the office I'd been escorted out of 2 days earlier. Security let me in, looking uncomfortable. Rode the elevator to the executive floor. The CEO was waiting, a man named Harrison. A late 50s, traditional business guy. He'd built the company over 30 years. Didn't know much about HR feelings initiatives. Just knew his analytics department wasn't working. And his best analyst was sitting in front of him. He asked me to tell him what happened, from my perspective. So I did. The emotional check-ins. The vulnerability sessions. The write-ups for being too quiet. The termination for not smiling enough. I showed him my performance reviews. 11 years of exceeds expectations. Showed him the termination letter. Failure to meet emotional engagement standards. He read everything twice. Then sat back and sighed. Victor, I owe you an apology. I didn't know this was happening. I trusted HR to handle culture. But this isn't culture, this is ideology. You shouldn't have been fired for being quiet. That's not a performance issue. That's a personality type. He asked what it would take for me to come back. I said I'd need the firing expunged from my record. Full back pay for the days I was terminated. And assurance that emotional expression requirements were removed. He agreed to all of it immediately. Then asked if I had any other conditions. I thought about it. Said I didn't want Brenda fired necessarily. But her policies needed to change. Not everyone expresses emotion the same way. Introverts shouldn't be punished for being introverts. Results should matter more than smiles. He nodded and said fair enough. That afternoon, Harrison called a company-wide meeting. Announced that my termination had been a mistake. That I was being reinstated with full back pay. That the company valued different personality types. And would be reviewing HR policies. To ensure they didn't penalize personal characteristics. The data department erupted in applause. First time I'd been applauded in my life. Didn't know what to do with my face. So I just nodded. Which got a laugh. Same old Victor. Brenda wasn't fired, but she was reassigned. Moved to a compliance role. New HR director brought in. Someone focused on actual workplace issues. Not emotional engineering. The vulnerability sessions became optional. The emotional check-ins became voluntary. People who wanted to share could share. People who wanted to work could work. Nobody was punished for either choice. Months later, things had normalized. I was back at my desk, building models, crunching numbers. Same as I'd done for 11 years. But something was different. I felt seen in a way I never had before. My colleagues had sacrificed for me. Risked their jobs because they thought I mattered, even though I'd never been the one bringing donuts, or organizing birthday parties, or sharing weekend stories. They'd seen my value anyway, in the work I did, in the help I gave, in the reliability I provided. Sandra stopped by my desk one afternoon, said, "You know, Victor, you're more emotional than you think." I asked what she meant. She said, "The way you help people, the way you care about quality, the way you stayed late to save my project last year. That's all emotional. You just don't announce it." I thought about that. Maybe she was right. Maybe I did have emotions. Just different from what Brenda expected. Not loud or visible. But there, in the work, in the actions, in the showing up every day and doing my best. Year later, I got promoted to Director of Analytics. Harrison personally approved it. Said the department had never performed better. And I'd never smiled once in a meeting. I laughed at that. First time Harrison had seen me laugh. He said, "See, you do have emotions." I said I have them. I just don't advertise them. He said some of the best people don't. That's not a flaw, that's a feature. I think about the colleagues who walked out for me. 14 people who said no. This isn't right, we won't accept it. They didn't know if they'd have jobs afterward. Did it anyway. For the quiet guy, who didn't go to happy hours. That taught me something. You don't have to be loud to be valued. You don't have to perform emotions to matter. And when things go wrong, sometimes the quiet ones inspire the loudest response. I'm still not good at feelings. Still don't share much in meetings. Still prefer my dog to most humans. But I know now that there's room for people like me. In workplaces that judge fairly. That value actions over performances. That measure results, not smiles. Not every workplace is like that, but the ones that are, those are worth staying for. Anyway, that's the story of how I got fired. For being emotionless. For not participating in vulnerability sessions. For having a neutral face while thinking. For being exactly who I'd been for 11 years. The same 11 years of excellent work. That apparently meant nothing compared to how I looked in meetings. But when I walked out with my cardboard box, something unexpected happened. The people I'd quietly helped for a decade decided to be loud for me. They refused to work, refused to accept the injustice, brought the department to a standstill, until leadership had no choice but to admit they'd made a mistake. Turns out you don't have to be emotional to inspire emotion in others. You just have to be real and do your job well and trust that somewhere, someone notices. Even when you're not performing, the work speaks. Even when you're not speaking, the actions matter. Even when you're not smiling. That's what solidarity looks like. People standing up for what's right. Even when the person they're standing up for doesn't know how to say thank you properly. I said it anyway. Awkwardly, quietly, sincerely. Thank you.